Welcome to the Commercial Real Estate Podcast powered by First National. I am Adam Pawatic, sitting here at the Western Canada Apartment Investment Conference. Normally, as in 200 episodes deep now normal, I would be sitting here with Aaron Cameron as my co-host. He is a father of a young family and has some obligations where he cannot be here, which is unfortunate, but we decided to push ahead, and we have a guest co-host on today. We've got Rolly from Informa, who's stepping in to fill the void. Rolly, welcome.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I hope I don't let you guys down.
Yeah. Well, Aaron will listen to this one for sure, just to make sure he wasn't upstaged. And then I will, of course, introduce as well our guest of the day, Scott Butler, CEO, Highstreet Ventures. Also, welcome to you, Scott.
Thanks, Adam. And Rolly did promise that this would be the best podcast yet, actually.
Yeah, absolutely.
Looking forward to it.
This will be the number one ranked without a doubt. So as mentioned, we are at the conference right now. This is actually, because Rolly's got insight into this, of course, because he is from Informa. This is year 4 or 5 of the Western Canada Apartment Investment Conference, alternating cities between Edmonton and Vancouver, or Alberta and Vancouver.
Yep.
We have been to both cities in the past, but this looks pretty full. This looks like we're post-COVID, good attendance.
It is. We usually get about 350 at this event, and we had to move the room last minute to downstairs to accommodate 500 people on a sold-out event.
Perfect. It's big growth.
Yeah. No, it's great.
Right on.
Well, let's get into it. So, in order just to set the stage, Scott, I want to hear about your background, how you got into real estate, how you ended up building condos and apartments, all throughout BC. Can you give us the story?
Sure. Well, I guess it started when I was a kid. My dad had my parents had a construction company, and I grew up around it. And I always say by the time I was about 15, I thought I'd have absolutely nothing to do with it because I had 2 older brothers and my dad telling me what to do all the time on a construction site. So
It's perfect.
I carried on into other things. I went off to university and worked at WestJet for 5 years. Had a great experience there, learned a ton and met great people. And one of those was my business partner now, Don Bell. He was one of the co-founders of WestJet. And I told him a number of months before I was going to leave that I was going to leave to go start a business. I didn't know what that was exactly, but he said he'd back me, and that gave me a lot of confidence to go pursue something. And it just so happened that real estate ended up being the number one thing I saw. I always liked real estate, and I was interested in it. I'd followed it throughout my life, and it was a natural fit. My brother was actually building a lot of apartments for different developers. He'd done a stint with Seymour Pacific and also was working for a guy doing aging in place facilities in Grand Prairie and at the time Fort Saskatchewan. So he had the multifamily experience, and I thought, well, how hard can this be? I'll go be a developer and started doing a project. So our first one was a condo project on Vancouver Island in Courtenay. And we did 45 condos there, and that's that got the ball rolling. That was 2006, 2007. And
was it easy?
No, not at all. There was a couple near-death experiences early on. I guess the story in the beginning is my wife and I had saved up $100,000 to start a business. So we had the beauty of the WestJet investment programs. They had a matching program for employees, and that allowed us to save $100,000 in 5 years that we were there to go start something. Can proceed to spend it all on the first project. So, by December of 2005, and I left in January, we'd invested $90,000 into this project and living expenses and everything else, and so we were down to our last $10,000, and we're well on our way through permitting. And I kept hearing that we were being stalled out by engineering. Finally, I went and camped outside the director of engineering's office, and when I finally
This is always a funny part of the conference when they're trying to herd all the cats back into the conference. They ring a bell to drive them. And that's the one noise that does kind of get through the mic sometimes. So for everybody wondering what that is, it's a classic conference maneuver to get everybody's chit-chat wrapped up and moved on. So it should just be background and maybe distract Scott for a second. But, we'll push through here.
And
Definitely
the
an attention grabber, but
the promise is that we're only going to do this a little bit now at each conference, not the full.
yeah, right on. Anyway, so sorry, carrying on. So we'd had all this money out there. We'd the life savings put into this. Everything was working up to starting this first project. And I met with the director of engineering, and he said, well, your project has to be put on hold. We're thinking about using 20th Street, which was where the project was, as a bridge location. So you're going to have to wait. And I was just like, you got to be kidding me. Like, what, we're well into this.
Delays in development? That never happens.
Yeah, I put a year of my life into this. And then, anyway, it was, we fought through. Fortunately, through a contact with the city, I found a way to get an appearance in front of council, and they rejected 20th Street as an option for the bridge. And we were able to keep going. So that was, it was very stressful at the time, but we did manage to get through it, and I was very fortunate. And then the next time was, of course, 2008, when we were, didn't have any. I had one project under our belt, and we had two more underway, and then 2008 hit. So that was an interesting time as well.
Did those projects get put on hold?
Yeah, for sure. One was a condo project in Courtenay that got put on hold for basically 10 years. And we did build we were building a Holiday Inn Express at the time in Courtenay. That got built, and we managed to sell it. We were the only hotel sale in BC in 2009. So we sold that and got some cash out and were able to keep going, which is how we ended up in Yellowknife. We redeployed that money into, basically we were just going anywhere in Western Canada to try to find opportunity, and back against the wall, and just like, I will go anywhere, do anything, and ended up in Yellowknife and Dawson Creek and St. Albert. So it was that was the adventure.
I guess speaking of Yellowknife, I mean, what's the dynamic building up there versus Alberta or BC?
Yeah, Yellowknife's it's a wild market. I mean, when we went up there, my brother Matt had some exposure to it through they were rebuilding an eightplex that caught fire for it was Northern Property REIT at the time, and with that exposure to the market, we kind of went up and we're like, wow, rents are really high. And I mean, I was so new in exploring the apartment space that it was like low land prices, really high rents. Awesome, let's do it. And it was pretty ignorant. Like, it was, the impact of cap rates were kind of a secondary consideration. Well, cap rates are damn high in Yellowknife. Like, it was like, by the time we figured out what it was going to be worth, pardon me, we were going to build a 48-unit apartment building, and we thought, well, we'll try to sell it to Northern Property REIT, and it was going to cost $8.5 million, and they said, well, we'll give you $8 million for it. Well, that math didn't work. So, like, okay, let's try something else, and so we ended up selling condos. We were the first ones to sell condos up there in about 10 years, and we did Energuide 80. And it was ended up being a home run of a deal up in Yellowknife. But in terms of differences, I mean, everything's different. It's it's a level of cold. It's a level of logistics preparation. I remember the first townhomes that we were preparing to move people in. The cabinets got delayed because the lake thawed. So you have to wait for that. There was a couple of weeks where all it is fly in, fly out, and we didn't have an option other than flying cabinets in at a very high cost. We had to delay occupancy because we, of course, hadn't experienced this before, where there's all of a sudden 2 weeks where ground transportation just doesn't exist. So yeah, it was a wild, crazy experience.
Different set of headaches.
Yeah, for sure.
But a different set of rewards, I guess. You did mention that it was, I guess, from a financial perspective, worth the effort.
Yeah, the first one up there was a home run, and then the next one was not. So it was, sometimes it gets harder, sometimes it gets easier. In that case, we just had the opposite of, we had a project in St. Albert at the time that we tied in with that investment with Yellowknife, and Yellowknife was the home run, and St. Albert was so-so. And then the next one we had one in Edmonton, and then another one in Yellowknife, and the Edmonton one was the home run, and Yellowknife was so. So you can never predict these things. Like it's you just never know.
So why are you out of that market now then? So I think you mentioned that you're no longer, you have exposure to Yellowknife either in the condo or the rental.
No, we don't have anything. We sold all of them as condos. We ended up doing 199 townhomes and condos in Yellowknife. That was a significant amount of supply for the market. A bunch of other players came in after us, and it ended up being a well-supplied market, and just too small for us. I think as we grew, you get to the point where you tend to focus your efforts on more of the major centers. And in the early days where we'd go into Dawson Creek or Grand Prairie or Fort McMurray or Yellowknife, and that's all changed. And part of that theory is that we're at a point now where, like, once Highstreet took over doing construction directly, we decided we wanted to focus geographically on certain areas and have overlapping projects in those areas so that people could have a stable home life, and they could work where they live and raise a family and everything else. And so the remote kind of small market niche is not our game anymore, and certainly there's opportunity for other people to do that, but it's just not something we're doing anymore.
So you mentioned mentioned before we hit recording, for anybody who's not part of our conversation, you got 200 units completing right now. So if not Yellowknife, where are you focusing your energy?
Yeah, we've got projects going on in two major areas of geographic concentration right now, Vancouver Island and the interior. So we've got condos that have been completing in Nanaimo and Langford. We've got a project underway in Parksville right now. So we've got 137 condos there that are under construction and actively selling. Surprisingly, sold 3 in the last week. So I don't know if it's just the stabilization of interest rates, but so that's turning out well. And we've got a project we will be starting in, another one in Langford we'll be starting, and we've got 240 apartments we're leasing up right now in West Kelowna or West Bank First Nation, and starting another 240 there this summer. And we've got 160 in Upper Mission in Kelowna. As soon as we get permitting from the city, we'll be under the way there, and we're moving dirt there now. So that'll be either rental or condo. We'll see how the market turns out and decide as we get closer to completion.
And regarding the size of these developments, I mean, I noticed there are 4 or 5 stories. Is that a function of the market they're in, or is that your sweet spot for delivering the quality and the sustainability that you guys do?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, yeah, we've just always done wood frame, and we're pretty narrowly focused on wood frame apartments. Even townhomes, we don't love doing townhomes. It's not our niche. It's not our expertise, and so whenever we look at a market, we're always looking at that 4 to 6 story wood frame land, and that's what we focus on. That's where we build, and that's given us enough opportunity in Western Canada with all the different areas we look at. So it's worked out well.
You mentioned the condo versus apartment inflection or decision point. What's the criteria? Do you have any concerns in either condo or apartment in terms of profitability? Any exit concerns? Because I know that both of them are obviously reacting to a tumultuous environment. So how are you re-underwriting your strategies here?
Yeah, great question. I mean, we're very flexible about it, and we don't see, it's mathematical. If condos will make more money, we'll switch to condo, and if alternatively, if there is no condo market, we'll do rental. Sometimes we will very intentionally do purpose-built rental where we're going to keep it. The West Side Road site in West Bank First Nation is an example of that. We really wanted to have a local community that we were operating, and we kept selling every one we built. So we had one in Kelowna that we sold to Starlight back in, it was 2019, and then we kept selling everything we built in West Kelowna to Skyline, and it was just we have to keep one locally and have it close so we can train people and have an example in the local community for all of our employees. They can go visit and everything else, and aside from that, it's a great return. So we don't just do it for the goodness of all those reasons. It's obviously the math has to dictate that it makes sense. But we'll continue to build our rental portfolio over time. And So we're not afraid to keep. We also, if we are going to sell because we need the capital to reinvest in communities that we keep, we'll do condo, and that's our primary interest. I'm not saying we won't ever sell a rental community, a complete rental community again, but our first ambition is to sell to end users and or keep ourselves. And one of the reasons for that is we've really evolved what we do over the years from a product standpoint, and the amount of investment we put in the building from an energy efficiency standpoint. I mean, we're carbon free on the operating side. We're step code 4. We're 75% better than code when it comes to energy efficiency. We spend a lot of money on soundproofing, and we saw this level of quality that a lot of the merchant builders weren't putting in, yet the buyers would look at it and go, well, you want $310 a door, and nobody's paid more than $290, and you're going, well, yeah, because we don't have any common utility expenses, and it's very efficient, and it's a higher quality building. But we kind of got to the point where it was like, hey, let's keep as much as possible, and if we're going to sell to end users so that they can recognize the value. Plus, it actually improves both sides of the business for us. Like if we're selling to end users, we get a lot of immediate direct feedback that you don't necessarily get from renters. They kind of, maybe they don't feel like they can impact the product or feel like they, their opinion matters. But when you're talking to a buyer who's paid $400,000 for a condo, they'll let you know what they think, and it actually improves the rental side for us, and then the condo experience improves. The rental experience improves the condo side in terms of, picking things that last and thinking about longevity and things that easy maintenance access and all that kind of stuff. So we see a great fit in doing both, and that'll always be part of the mix for us.
And you talked about, your buy, sell, hold, but what about the financing side? Are you all self-financed or?
My kind of question, Rolly. I like it. Yeah, let's talk finance.
Yeah, actually First National did a takeout, CMHC takeout in Penticton for us. So really good long-term 10-year deal, great financing there. And so on takeout, we'll do CMHC insured financing. The only times we haven't is when CMHC is not a player in the market. So Dawson Creek, Grand Prairie, those are two I can think of where CMHC just wouldn't even come close to realizing even anywhere near the cost of the project. So
they will go there. I assume it's just an underwriting issue. Probably vacancy was.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't looked at it in a long time because it just hasn't been worthwhile. But I don't think they'd come close on value, even though there's not a high value in Dawson Creek. But I think Grand Prairie, our value is about $150,000 a door, and I can't remember the last time we checked with CMHC. We've had 5-year financing on that, so we haven't had to look into it for quite a while. But we'll check again when we go back there. But yeah, in terms of we're a plain vanilla developer. We don't get creative with financing. Every project is 25% equity, 75% loan on cost. So we don't really play with that model. We've only, out of 31 completed projects, we've only done more than 75% about 3 times, and they were unique circumstances. Totally sold out condo project and stuff like that. So we don't play with the model. We try to stay conservative, and it's worked well for us over time. We'll use any major bank on the financing, and our equity is all from people we know. So I mentioned Don Bell earlier. So Don, my partner who's been with us forever, whenever we raise money, we go out and go through the Rolodex and phone people up, and that's worked out extremely well for us. We have great long-term relationships with our investors, and of course many of them are friends, and it's an awesome we have these annual general meetings that are fantastic. Everybody comes out, and so we've got like a little Lollapalooza for capitalism, and it's super fun. So we have a great
barbecue.
Time. I think you might have just named this episode. That's Lollapalooza for capitalism with Scott Butler.
Yeah, for sure. Give that. I better give Warren Buffett credit for that line.
You mentioned some of the smaller markets you're in. I just recently spent 2 weeks out in Revelstoke, which, like many of the small communities there, has affordability issues. It has lack of vacancy issues, and there was some construction going on when I was driving through. But when you're looking at markets of that size, are you interested? Is there a viable business case? Would you? We'll use Revelstoke as a proxy for a lot of the other small towns, in the area. Are you looking for opportunities there?
For quick answer is no. For the same reason I mentioned earlier, because of our geographic areas of focus, we're focused on 2 overlapping projects in the interior and 2 overlapping projects on the island, Mid-Island and South Island. And so, and that's in order to keep our people and our trades busy and overlapping and have that home life and everything else. So we're really focused on having somewhere with it that we can create a great lifestyle for people working for us as well. So through active efforts on the construction side, where on the next projects we do, we're actually only going to have a Monday to Friday schedule for construction, and eliminate weekends from the schedule, and only Monday to Friday 7 to 5, and allow people to enjoy what they should be able to enjoy. So for that reason, we can't participate in markets like Revelstoke, because we'd want to go in and then do overlapping projects there. But it's a great opportunity. I mean, I kind of look at Revelstoke and I go, that'd be nice, but it just doesn't fit our model now. So that's why we won't be going there.
Is that a bit of a reaction to, I mean, is this something you guys have come out and thought about, or is it a reaction to kind of the labor shortages that we've been experiencing over the last little bit?
Yeah, it wasn't really a labor shortage. It didn't start there. It was more just, seeing where we started and how we evolved over the years, realizing the impact that we had on people's lives and families and everything else. And I didn't want to perpetuate that and be a part of that going forward. And so that was really an ambition of ours since we started construction. And we didn't start doing construction ourselves until 2017. And that really started to narrow our focus around what we wanted to do and how we wanted to do it. And we just, we got to a size and a capability where we didn't necessarily have to chase every good deal. We just had to focus on the areas that we wanted to focus on, and there was enough there, between Vancouver Island and the interior to make a good, good sized company out of it and keep going. So. And we see other opportunities. I mean, we keep looking at the Lower Mainland, and I always kick myself. And I probably first started looking 4 years ago, and I thought the land was too expensive. And then 3 years ago, the land was too expensive. And right, and every time it doubles. Every time I look, and
you call the top every year for 4 years straight.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm not smart enough to figure all this stuff out. We're just lucky.
Well, so on that topic, so you're out there looking at opportunities, and I'm assuming these are just kind of open market. You're paying market value on land. Can you still pencil out a profitable deal that encompasses the risk in development properly, or is it getting squeezed? Like, what are the pro formas looking like these days? Not for land that you actually did buy 4 years ago, but if you were out there just looking at a brand new market deal.
Yeah, fair. Great question, and yeah, it's getting tough. The problem is a combination of both land and construction costs have skyrocketed in the last couple of years. So. For us, we've been actively trying to figure out this year as we're getting ready to. We're actually tendering 3 projects right now. So as we go through that tender process, we're actively trying to figure out how we can get the cost down and working with all of our trade partners to figure out what we need to do better and how we can bring that down. I mean, by way of example, I'd say just before COVID, we were delivering communities on the hard construction cost side at about 180 a square foot, and that's climbed to 250, 260 for step code 4. So it's a higher level of quality, and we think that step code 4 maybe adds $20-30 a square foot to that cost. So we've become a little uncompetitive, I'd say, and so we're trying to get back to a level where we can pencil out deals where we're seeing what we thought was good land opportunity. I mean, I can name a few cities. We've looked at Penticton recently, and we've looked at other deals in Kamloops, and that we just can't make sense of because we can't make the math work. And so we're actively trying to get the construction cost down and hoping that there's a bit of a settling of land prices in the next year or two for sure.
Well, that was the idea when interest rates shot up last year, that ultimately land values should be the lever that gets pulled to readjust market. But it has, and there has been adjustment in a lot of markets, but not to compensate for what interest rates have done in the last year.
Yeah, we haven't seen it yet. We're starting to see, I mean, we're seeing the supply increase. We're seeing a lot more land deals come across our desks. So, obviously supply and demand will dictate that ultimately the price should be falling. So I think we can get more aggressive with any land purchases. We've been lucky in that we haven't had to be aggressive on land purchases in the last year and a half. We've had a land bank of some great land, South Island, Mid Island, like Comox. We've got a large site there, and we've got 2 more parcels in Langford and a parcel in Sydney that we tied up before. This was all before a big run up in prices. And in the interior, we've got the remaining. What have we got left there? There's 360 left to build on West Side Road, and then another 296 in Upper Mission and Kelowna. So we've got a nice runway, and we're hoping that in the next year or two things will settle down.
And do you look for like approved land, or is that the lesson you learned from your first project of the delays?
Yeah, no, we it's a combination. We'll do rezonings when it's a slam dunk. Like, we're not looking for the hard rezonings. We'll do one where, if it's in the official community plan, it's supported by staff. We've had initial engagement with them, and they're very on board. We'll go ahead and tackle that. Generally, we're buying zoned land. Whenever we built in Alberta, which was quite a bit, we'd buy it zoned for the product we were going to build. BC tends to be a little more complicated, right? Like the land deals in BC is always some, it tends to be some land that was passed down to the siblings, and they're all fighting, and then you got to deal with them. And so I hope none of the previous people we've bought land from listen to this, but it's totally true. Like, every land deal in BC has a bunch of hair on it, and it's so weird. And people are fighting, and you're coming into it going, okay, we'll take this off your hands, and right? I'm not wrong. Whereas Alberta, it's corporations and companies that you're buying from. It's a lot easier,
and a pretty easy approval process too.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, a lot less complications in Alberta. And there's something to be said for that. I mean, I think that's a lesson for BC. I love the development process in Edmonton, and that the development officer can approve development permits with variances up to 10%. And it doesn't go back to council. It doesn't go in front of council. It's just, if the land's owned, they can approve it. And I think that's something BC should do. This announcement on Monday about the Homes for People plan, I think it's good that they're focused on it. I just think that there's always some practical things and easy things they could do to increase the supply of homes, and that would be one of them. Is stop sending every development approval to council and stop bringing everything back. I mean, I'd recommend taking it a step farther and saying, hey, if it's in the official community plan, let staff deal with it, because as soon as you get council involved, then it becomes a political process, and then the NIMBYism comes out, and then everybody's arguing, and they're afraid to lose votes, and it just becomes this never-ending consultation process and back and forth.
Risk of every time there's an election, there's a brand new risk on the table, and
yeah, for sure. Whereas if provincially, I believe if they took that away and just by legislation said, well, once the consultation's done on the official community plan and you have future land use identified, then staff are the experts. Let staff deal with the permitting and approval process, and don't put it back in front of council. I mean, it is kind of silly when you think about everything that goes to councils in BC and all these municipalities, and they're dealing with a height variance on a fence, and then they deal with a 200 unit apartment approval, and then they deal it's a crazy amount of work for people that don't have a background in a lot of times they don't have the background in real estate development, and meanwhile you've got staff who are experts, and so I just say empower the experts to deal with it. There's my pitch to the provincial government.
Good pitch.
Yeah.
I think we are almost out of time, so I'm going to end on a question that maybe you won't want to answer. You've got a ton of exposure in the interior and a ton of exposure in the island, both of which have seen great run-ups in rents recently, and both are very strong. Which one are you more bullish on in the next 5 years?
It's not that I don't want to answer. I just know if I answer, I'll be wrong. So,
well, not for 5 years. I mean, that's a long time.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, nobody will check back. No, I try not to predict. I mean, we're happy to be in both markets. I don't know which one's going to come out ahead. They're both great places to live. There's lots of in-migration in both. We're looking at getting back into Calgary. We've got a project there that we're selling off as condos right now, so we're looking to reinvest in Calgary. Ultimately, we'll be back in Edmonton as well. And we've got some other, got eyes on some other areas as well. But I should leave with, I think, the next hottest place in 5 years, I'd say Dawson Creek. Everybody should be looking at Dawson Creek. And we've got an apartment community up there. It's great. You guys should check it out.
Yeah.
Send him an email in 5 years.
Yeah.
So looking back at the progression of Highstreet, what are you most proud of over the last 15 plus years?
Yeah, thank you. Great question. It's all about relationships, and the longer we spend doing this, the more rich those relationships are, and the more fun it is, and so that to me has been one of the biggest benefits, and part of those relationships is seeing our people grow and the company develop, and we just have an awesome team of people that they're really growing with Highstreet, and we see this evolution. I mean, some of them are the president of our property management side. I've known him since I was at WestJet in 1999, and he's really evolved into the role. Our president on the development construction side, Christina, joined us 8 years ago as a development coordinator, and now she's running the development construction side. So I love seeing people evolve into the roles and growing, and that's been very gratifying. And like I say, those continued evolution of those relationships, both with investors and our board and the people we do business with, and yeah, that's super gratifying. So it gets more and more fun as you get older.
And less stressful, hopefully. That's the
for
the
sure.
other hope.
For sure. There's no more 2008s.
You're okay with 2020 and 2021?
Yeah, no, that was fine. Yeah, that was remarkably. I think because we were structured so differently, and it wasn't as much, worry about losing our house or something.
Yeah.
Whereas 2008, it was still early on, and there was a lot more at stake at that time. Not that there wasn't more at stake in 2021. It was just we had lots of cash in the bank. We were able to withstand it. It was fine.
And from interest rate perspective, it was probably the best you've ever done. So there was upsides, of course, to the world going nuts. Not to end on a sour note, of course, but we are at time, Scott. That was fantastic. I want to thank First National for powering the podcast. Normally, I would thank Informa for hosting us here, but since I am sitting across from Rolly, looking him right in the eyes, I'll thank Rolly directly for hosting us here today, and of course for stepping in for Aaron as a co-host.
My pleasure.
But most importantly, thanks Scott for joining us today.
Thank you very much, Adam and Rolly. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.